and welcome to Zoom with Czarny. I'm Dustin Czarny, Democratic Elections Commissioner for Onondaga County, and welcome to my interview show. This podcast is focusing on democracy advocates and lawmakers, and I'm happy to try to bring this to you as well as my Commissioner in a Car podcast. It's twice a week that I do podcasting. So this week's guest is Mayor Stacy Finney. She's the mayor of Liverpool, and she is coming on 1 year on the job. She was part of the Democratic takeover of the village of Liverpool last year, and they have another village election coming up this Tuesday. And that's why I wanted to have her on, because there's not any contested races on the ballot. However, there is a proposition to move village elections to November. And I think that's an interesting and worthwhile proposal. We saw that happen in Baldwinsville and Fayetteville earlier this year, and we may see this happen again in the village of Liverpool if the voters choose it. So stay tuned for that interview. I'm a day late posting my Zoom with Czarny because we have the start of early voting today on Saturday, June 15th, and I've been really busy getting prepped for that. But early voting is here, and it's ongoing today and will run until June 23rd this is for the June primary elections. The June village elections in Liverpool does not have early voting in person. It does have early voting by mail. But if you want a ballot for the June village primary, you're not able to go in person to early voting or election day, or even if you just want a mail ballot, you can go to onvote.net and get that mail ballot. Well, that's all I have for reminders. Stay tuned for my interview with Stacy Finney, Village of Liverpool Mayor. Thank you. And we're back, and I'm very happy to have my friend, Mayor Stacy Finney of Liverpool, the village of Liverpool. She was elected last year, and I'm so happy to have you back on Zoom with Czarny.
Great. Happy to be back, and happy that I remembered this time that it was on camera and I remembered lipstick.
You looked great last time too, so don't worry about that.
I know, the hair is growing in too.
Yeah. So, Mayor, it's about a year in office. And the reason we're talking is because village elections are next week, next Tuesday, at the time that this is airing. We're taping this a little earlier, but at the time this is airing, village elections are next Tuesday. We have a big proposition on the ballot about moving village elections to the fall. And we're going to talk about that a little later in the program. But first, I wanted to catch up with you. And remind the viewers and listeners that, you were part of a Democratic sweep in the village of Liverpool a year ago. You were elected along with two village board members, Rachel and Melissa, that took over the village board for the first time. Democrats not only got people elected to office, but actually have control of the village board of Liverpool. And you ran on an opening up government. Part of that was moving the elections to November. How you been? We're almost celebrating a year. What's it been?
Yeah. I mean, it's amazing when you say it's been a year, because it feels like it's longer. I'm not going to lie. It's definitely, it's a lot. We've gotten a lot done in this year. We did a lot of what we said. We started recording meetings, so they are open. We just now got a whole new system through our courthouse grant, and we can also now have meetings where somebody can be virtual and then also participate in the meeting, whereas before they couldn't. They could only just view it. So I'm really excited about that. The whole new website, I think that has been phenomenal. And we ran on a ticket of keeping things open. We just had to raise taxes, and Trustee Cassidy wrote a phenomenal letter that I signed. So it looks like I wrote it. I did not. I've given her credit whenever people compliment me on it, but we want people to know what's going on. We want people to be involved. We've got some phenomenal committees. But it's a lot. It is definitely a lot that's happening and a lot that's going to continue happening in the village of Liverpool.
So you went from private citizen to public figure overnight. It was you were, and now you're mayor, and your fellow board members are also village trustees. And the village of Liverpool isn't a sleepy little village. You got a hustling, bustling village there, and a lot of activities going on. What was it like to transition from a private citizen to a public citizen?
I have to admit, like when people refer to me as mayor, I still chuckle a little inside. It doesn't it's just it's this title I never anticipated happening. I think I had a lot of ideas about the village. I had a lot of faith in the village, a lot of ideas of what could happen. The ironic part is my friends from high school, when they found out that I ran and I won, were all like, yeah, we're not surprised. We saw that coming. My husband did not, though. He was a little shocked when I mentioned that I was going to be running, but then he said he wasn't surprised I won. So that's very sweet of him. But yeah. Yeah. Um,
Yeah.
it is interesting to definitely be. I'm a little more concerned about, sitting on my front porch in my pajamas now, things like that, things I could do before that weren't as much of a concern. Now I wonder, should the mayor be sitting on her front porch in pajamas having coffee, or do I need to at least put on sweatpants, So, but overall, I think it's a good thing. People are genuinely pretty nice. I haven't had anyone be abrasive, even with the canceling of the Memorial Day parade to my face. So
Well, yeah. So, like, that was gonna be a nice segue into what I wanted to talk about next. But
yeah,
it can't all be sunshine. It can't all be rainbows. There's a lot of challenges to public life.
yeah.
And you mentioned the Memorial Day parade, but I was just going to ask you generally, what are some of the challenges of this first year that you've had to overcome?
Yeah. So so Memorial Day parade, because it just recently happened. I think being in the public eye and having to make those tough decisions and knowing that you're making a tough decision that a lot of people are not going to be appreciative of or understanding of, and knowing that it is going to be met with aggression, but not compassion. That was definitely a challenge. I knew that we couldn't pull off the parade in a safe manner, and I knew that people wouldn't understand that. And I knew that I needed to get the word out, but also knowing that people only read the headlines and newspapers go for the most controversial headline and then they comment. My advice to public officials is don't ever read the comments. Don't ever read the comments.
I think when Syracuse.com decided not to have comments on their articles, it made the news a lot better. But
But there's still
unfortunately,
Facebook.
yeah, but there's
Yeah,
still Facebook, and there's still um yeah, there's still the TV articles, like in CNY Central still have the comment sections, and that's
yeah,
something that I've never really felt brought any value. Uh
yeah.
and I'm semi-public life myself, so the comments are always out there as well, and it is what it is. But
It is. Yeah.
you talked about the challenges. And before we get into the village elections this Tuesday, what are some of the successes? So you kind of talked about a little bit of things, but what are
Yeah.
some of the things that you really think helped in this first year?
So some of the successes, one of the things that definitely helped is maintaining a friendly and open relationship with the outgoing mayor. We kept things civil. I even if I need to, I know that I could even call Chris Badden and ask for advice. So keeping things civil was definitely a success. Whenever I call Gary White, he picks up, within the second ring. And even if he's picking up to say, I got your phone call, I'm really busy, can I call you back in about 30 minutes? And he's always been upfront and willing to share information. And that has been a tremendous help. The village clerks having, an existing staff that is knowledgeable has been enormously helpful. But some of the successes and the pluses, I think one of my all-time favorite days was meeting with the New York State DOT regarding the construction of 2nd Street and realizing that I had the power to ask for things like bike lanes and push button flashing crosswalk signals and granite curbs where there's currently concrete because of road construction and things like that. That's when I was like, this is the power of the job. When you have opinions and desires for your village and a vision, and to be able to actually implement that with one meeting was wonderful. Yeah.
So, and again, and now I just want to look towards the future. What are some of the things that you haven't yet accomplished that you're hoping to focus? You're up again in next year,
Yeah.
in next year's village election. We'll get to this year's village election in a second, but next year's village election, you're up.
Mhm.
But what are you hoping to accomplish in the remaining year on your term?
So this summer, my focus is on signage. The village has a lot of signs that are faded and disrepair, a lot of excessive signs. If you go to other villages, for example, my husband and I just went to Pittsford, and the signage is just so much cleaner. It's not like you're driving through a novel. So I'm working a lot with the DPW on improving the signs entered into the village. Our gardening committee did a phenomenal job of adding landscaping underneath them. But even just signage where it's so faded, you can't even read it anymore. Those little details that people start to notice. Another thing that I'm hoping to get accomplished this summer is bringing more art into the village. There's a grant that I applied for with Onondaga County and CNY Arts for a mural along one of the buildings that leads into the library garage. And just continuing work. We just met with Nick Perro and their engineers about the LWRP grant and looking at what our goals are with that and setting up committees for that, updating our comprehensive plan. And, also looking at what are we going to do with Micron coming in and how do we mitigate traffic issues.
Yeah, and you already have a history of having to worry about traffic issues with Amazon right outside the village there,
Yep.
and trucks
And
passing through there as well. So
yeah, and we are still battling Amazon. It is shocking. We have a meeting, the police chief and I have a meeting with them, and or by the time this airs, we'll have had a meeting with them. And it's just an ongoing issue.
yeah, and besides just the trucks, you have all of the people that go to work there in shifts all times of night, and they go right through Vine Street and up in through the
Yep.
village there to get there. So
Yeah.
what now let's talk about next week. There is a village election. It's noon to 9 on Tuesday. There are two village trustees up, but they're running unopposed.
Right.
They happen to be the Republican members of the village board, but Democrats, or either unable or just didn't have anybody to run. But that doesn't mean there's not anything to vote for, because there is a proposition on the ballot. And this
Yes.
is the proposition to move the elections from June to November.
Yeah.
Why was this important to get on the ballot, and what are you hoping to accomplish with this?
Yeah, so this was important for a variety of reasons. So basically, as Democrats, basically, we found that we worked very well with Matt and Mike, the two Republican trustees. They're a great resource, so we did not opt to run anybody against them, and instead, we decided to focus on Proposition 1. So this is moving the election to November. The June election date is when we ran last year. I can remember speaking to a group of people, and they were like, "But we just voted." I was like, "No, that was the school board." And they were like, "Oh, so this is the primaries?" I'm like, "No, that's a week later. This is the village elections, and it's an odd time of year to have an election. And it's not one where people are focused on voting. They're focused on cookouts. They're focused on dealing with their summer. They're focused on their kids' baseball games. And with the changes to the election board, we actually have to pay money to have you guys run the election. And we are only noon to 9, which is such a short amount of time. There was somebody last year who literally, I tell people, she lived across the street from Village Hall. She had to do an absentee ballot because as a nurse, there was no way for her to guarantee that she would be home from noon to 9 on that day, and she wasn't. And that's insane. Um,
So this is something that you heard when you were campaigning last year.
yeah, so when we were campaigning, we heard from people that were just very confused and questioning why it wasn't in November, questioning why this June date. And we didn't really have an answer. We know that it used to be March, but because so many people were in Florida, they changed it to June. But even still, I think November is election day. You go out and you can vote on election day. And I have faith in our citizens to be able to go through all of the candidates and make educated choices. I don't think they're going to be bogged down by so many other issues that they can't focus on village elections. That's like telling somebody they can only do a test with 4 questions, not 20.
Yeah, I mean, and it is June is it's only 2 villages in Onondaga County, Liverpool and North Syracuse, that
Mhm.
have this June election day. And to catch
Yeah.
the viewers up, villages can choose. They can choose to have their election in March, in June, or in November. And if it's in November, the Board of Elections runs it. And they can also choose to have the Board of Elections run it in March and June, which you as a board opted to have that done because you're
Yeah.
it's elections are getting a lot more complicated. You got early voting by mail, and you wanted, the board of elections run it whether it stays in June or not. Um, what you know, and again, this June date has just become very weird because on, on the 19th when this is, when the village election is running, early voting will also be going on for the June 25th primary. But you
Yes.
can't vote in early voting if you're a Salina resident, a Salina Democrat that has
Mhm.
a primary, you can go and vote early, but
Yeah.
not for the village election. And you'd have to
Yes.
actually go vote in 2 different places
Yeah.
on the same day if you wanted to vote in both elections. Um, so uh,
Yeah.
and yes, you can vote by mail for both of them, but they're 2 different ballots. So that creates confusion as well.
Yeah. And so I talked to other mayors who had switched from, either March or June into November. And I spoke to one mayor and she said that their voter turnout increased by 300%. And I was like, "Oh, well, did you have a contested election?" She's like, "No, we just had people going. It was just a matter of people just knowing this is when they go. And our goal is to get people involved. Our goal with these committees, our goal with the website, and now our goal with changing the elections. We want people involved in their local elections because this really has a huge impact on your life in more ways than I think people realize.
And that's something that we've noticed. We've had 4 villages before last year or this year moved to elections, and we also saw earlier this election season both Baldwinsville and Fayetteville
Yeah.
had a proposition on, and those propositions passed by 56 to 60%, and they will now have village elections, including Fayetteville will have another election this year because of a vacancy that popped up. But and we saw anywhere from 60 to 800% turnout in some villages from the year before to the year after, and it didn't necessarily mean because you had more people running, although that's a benefit as well. And you can check out the weekly walk that I did on that, because I put in all the data in last week's weekly walk of those 4 villages that moved their elections and what it did for them. So it's Friday. It's going to be kind of tough for people to get an absentee, but I'll just put it out there. I'll put it in the commissioner in the cars as well leading up into this. But you can go to onvote.net and get an absentee sent to you. You can vote at Village Hall from noon to 9. Those are the only options for this village election coming up. And Proposition 1 will be on the back of the ballot. That's where they are. But if this moves, then you'll save 100% of the cost of village elections, because we're already holding elections in November. The board of elections is so.
Yeah, and I think people need to understand that we need the Board of Elections to run the election. We can't run it ourselves at all. It's just too complicated now. But we are paying for that June election. We're not paying for November. You have way more days to vote between early voting and an extended time on election day. The amount of people that were shocked that they couldn't vote at like 6 a.m. before they went to work. And it's an issue.
Yeah, the noon to 9 election day is almost solely now in the purview of village elections in March or June, because now the primaries are 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. as well. And it's people are starting to get used to that. And look, you want to vote on your way into work, is you're maybe going out to dinner after work and you don't know if you're going to get home by 9, or kid has a softball game or something like that. That's these are all the things that could happen, and that's why that 6 a.m. time period is important. Well,
and I worry those people who go there at 6 a.m. realize they can't vote on their way to work, and then you go through your workday and you forget because it's not an election day. It's go home and have a barbecue day.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, Mayor, we're kind of getting towards the end of that time period where I like to have on this. But I'll end this with my favorite lazy question, which is, what haven't we talked about? Whether it's the village election or the village of Liverpool, or how your dog's doing, whatever. Whatever you want to talk about, the floor is yours. What do you want the viewers and listeners to be left with before we end this podcast?
So you mentioned dog. I actually just adopted a dog, Remy. I adopted the dog from Powerful Paws. And what was surprising to me was how many dog rescue organizations are out there aside from the SPCA and Helping Hounds that people don't really realize exist. And we adopted a senior dog. She is phenomenal. I highly recommend getting a calm, easygoing senior dog. That is my tip. And look at other rescue organizations. It's amazing the work they do.
As a dog lover myself,
Yeah.
I had 2 young labs, and I've rescued a couple of before this too. So thank you for rescuing your dog. And Mayor, thank you for all you're doing out in Liverpool, for saying yes to public service, and giving voters a choice this Tuesday to decide when they want to vote in the village
Yeah.
election. So
Yep. And thank you to you. You are, you're there at every meeting. You're helping us get the word out. Thank you.
it's my pleasure. And that was my interview with Stacy Finney, mayor of the village of Liverpool. I hope you enjoyed that. It was a great conversation about what's life like as a small village mayor and a first year mayor. And we talked a lot about that proposition to move the village election to November. Stay tuned. Later this week, I'll be doing a weekly walk on Assembly District 127. That is the one held by Al Sturby, and that'll hopefully go up tomorrow. And my commissioner in car will be on Monday this week. So you're getting a lot of content from me right in a row. But my commissioner in car on Monday this week will be focused on the Village of Liverpool elections and the start of early voting for the June primary. And then my Zoom with Czarny next week I'm actually a little, I don't know yet. I'm still working out my guests for next Friday. So stay tuned and you'll find out as soon as I find out. All right. Thank you very much. And remember to go to dustinczarny.com. You can subscribe to get an email notification for any content or election news updates. I have a lot of updates coming over the next few weeks as we get ready for the big November general election. So check it out. It's always free. It's part of my public outreach as elections commissioner. I pay for it all myself. I take no ad money and I never take any money from anybody else as well. I do it all myself because that's what I believe I should be doing to get the word out there. Thank you very much and enjoy your day.